Whether you like it or not, you're in a competition. The question is, are you competing properly? And what's the stake if you don't? In this week's video, we're on site in Isthmia examining Paul's encouragement to the Corinthians to compete with everything they have. We take a closer look at the story behind Paul's athletic metaphor, and we ask the important question, what challenge does it still offer today? Stay tuned to find out.
So you get the idea of this world that it's a very competitive society. We talk about the ancient world, particularly the Greek world, as an agonistic society. The word is our English word agony, which means competition, struggle, and that's what this world was all about. There's only one place in this world. It's first place. That's it. There's nothing else. Put another way, you don't get a participation trophy in ancient Greece or in ancient Rome. If Paul was with us today in the 21st century and he's watching the Olympics and he said, what's that silver thing you just gave that person? Oh, that's what you get for coming second. He's like, you give a prize to the first loser. What is that about? That makes no sense to me, because there is only one place. It's winning or nothing else. And it starts from school age. When boys go to school, you don't do exams. You know, there's no ranking of where you fit within. No, you either win or you don't. So how do you test someone's capabilities from all of their education? Well, you make the boys compete, and then whoever won was the winner for that week, and that's the benchmark for next week. And so now your education is always about beating the guy who came first last week, and that's preparation for this world, because this world is a competitive world. It's first place or nothing else. So the games are really important, and you can tell they're important because the whole Greek world, the calendar of the Greek world is set according to the games. So we think about linear time, 2022, 2023, 2024, so forth. The Greek calendar works on a cycle. It works on the Olympiad. So year one is the beginning of a new Olympiad, and that's the Olympic Games. So we've talked about the Olympics. You worship in Zeus at that one, you win in the olive wreath. Year two are the Nemean Games and the Isthmian Games, what we've seen today. So here we're worshiping Poseidon, you win in a pine wreath right there. Down in the Isthmia, it's celery, and you're also worshipping Zeus as well as Heracles. Year three is Delphi. So we've been to Delphi, so there you're worshipping Apollo, you're winning the laurel wreath, and then come back to year four, and it's here again. So these games happen every 2 years, whereas Delphi and the Olympics happen every 4 years. And then after 4 years, you start again. And so you mark your time periods with every 4 years. And so the games are essential. You saw in the Antikythera mechanism, if you watch that documentary especially, where it actually marks out where you are in that Olympiad. It's like we're in 2022, well, where are we so far in the Olympiad, ready for the next one? So competition is everything. So when Paul comes here to Corinth, in fact, they date it as possible. Well, he was here for 18 months. There's a very good shot that Paul was here for one of these events. And that's, I mean, he's got a handy trade. He makes tents, amongst other things. So when you come into a place like this, you don't have the hotels that we've been staying in. You're staying in tents. You're traveling a long way. You need, well, leather goods. You know, your shoes might need fixing. A horse saddle might need fixing. You might need a tent. So it's an appropriate trade to have, and this is where all the business is. So naturally, this is a place you want to be. So when Paul writes back to the Corinthians, and he uses this analogy of athletics because it's just so central to their world, particularly for the Corinthians who host these games. Now, this is a real mark of pride. I think there's a World Cup in soccer. I don't follow soccer, but there's one coming up. It's in, where is it? In Doha? Qatar. There you go. And so, like, what a proud city. We're hosting the soccer. Well, every 2 years they get the Isthmian Games. So this is a big deal for this place, and the Corinthians are proud of that fact. So when he writes to them, he's talking about what this Christian life looks like. And he uses this analogy because it just seems so perfectly appropriate. He says, don't you know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. He says, if you're going to pursue the Christian life, do it in a way that everyone's competing for one prize. Now, the reality is, of course, we have our own callings. We've all got our own individual place to fit, and there is participation trophies, I guess, in a sense. But he's saying, but don't rest on your laurels. Treat it like a competition. Run as though you have to win it. Because if that's your motivation, you're going to put everything into it. That's the prize. That's everything you're going for. So take that attitude every day in the way you approach this. He says, everyone who competes in the games, literally agonizomai, it's the verbal form of agony. He says, goes into strict training. He says, literally exercises self-control. How do you win at a games like this? You don't just rock up and just, oh, I'll give it a crack, because you pull a hamstring, as we've seen. You got to prepare for this thing. You got to be ready for this. And so to prepare to be the best, well, that's going to come at a cost. And the cost is everything else in your life. Everything gets put aside. You want to do the best at this, well then, what's it going to cost you? Well, it's all the other things that you could be doing with your time, or with your energy, or with your resources. Whatever you've got, it's all got to go into this if you want to be the best. Paul says it's no different in the Christian life. You want to do it well, there's a cost. The cost is anything else you could be doing right now. Is it worth the cost? Because if you want to do it the best, if you want to get to the prize, that's what it's going to take. He says they do it to get a crown that will last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. That's a pretty cool analogy when you think about you win literally a pine branch. I mean, could you imagine, today, if you know, these prizes of crown, like Isthmia, you win wild celery. You could take that crown home and garnish your meal with it. It's kind of depressing when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, like, imagine winning the Olympics, you're up on the podium, you get your gold medal, and you look down and you realize that's chocolate covered in foil. That's depressing. I better eat the thing before it melts. I mean, you're not getting a crown that's going to last you, but what you're getting is the honor. You go home, you win the Olympics, you go home, every father in the city wants you to marry his daughter. You get honors laid on you because you won the games. You brought the honor back to our city. You're ours. We take pride. So the honor is what it's all about. Paul says that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You want honor in this life, great, go for it. But it's still you don't take it to eternity. You're going to die with it. What have you achieved? He says, don't fight for that. Don't compete for that. Compete for the eternal glory, the one that actually lasts on for eternity. That's the real prize. And that's going to take you right to the end of your life. That's going to cost every day of your life, not just the 4 years you trained for the Olympics. He goes on, therefore I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. He says, when I run, I've got a target. There's a finish line. Because if you can run really, really fast, but if you don't know where you're going, you're just going to tire yourself out and you're going to collapse and have achieved nothing apart from being exhausted. Or pulled a hamstring, sorry. I had to get a second one in. You could box, and you could just shadow box, and then your arms are exhausted, and you've achieved nothing apart from exhausting yourself. You need a target. You need something to move towards. There needs to be a finish line. There needs to be a goal. You need to know what it is that you're moving towards. So what is it? That's the prize. Do you know what it is? Because if you don't have that in sight, you're just going to exhaust yourself and then fall by the wayside because you never achieved anything. You just made yourself tired doing all this stuff that you thought was important, but have achieved nothing. He says, run for a prize. Have a target in mind. So he finishes it off. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I've preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Like all games, there were rules. At the Isthmian games, in the wrestling, you would have a judge who would have just a big whip. So you broke the rules. The best event was the pancration. So you've got the wrestling, you've got the boxing, and then you've got the pancration. So you take wrestling and boxing and you combine them. It's the original MMA. There's only 2 rules in this sport. Don't eye gouge and don't hit him in the groin. That's it. Everything else, go for a kick, punch, elbow, whatever it takes to get the other guy down. Do what you like. Just don't touch the groin, don't touch the eyes. And you see it in portraits. There's these pictures of these guys, the judges, and they're about to hit this guy because you can see him eye gouging the opponent. Now, they might take the other person down, but they've lost the competition because they didn't play by the rules. So what have they achieved? They've trained all these years, they've worked so hard, they've got into the competition, and then they've blown it because they broke the rules. You've got to know what the competition's about. You've got to know not just where you're going, but how to get there, and how to get there at the end, having not been disqualified because you broke the rules along the way. But I don't want to preach legalism here, but there is discipline that goes along with this.
Yeah.
It comes at a cost, it requires everything you've got, and it has some rules to go along with it. And at any point you break those rules, you fall by the wayside. It's not meant to be easy. I mean, we'll leave you with Jesus' most famous words: take up your cross and follow me. And that's it. That's the Christian life. We'll finish on that.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. Don't forget, if you wanted to go deeper on this topic, you can check out this week's podcast. The link for that is in the description below. And if you have any other New Testament questions, please be sure to drop that in the comment, and hopefully we can get to it in another video. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.